This is Rudolph Schenkel, a Swiss animal behavioralist from the early 20th century. And this, well, I think you know who this is. It's Andrew Tate, alleged human trafficker, alleged sexual assaulter, briefly the most searched for man on the internet, cam girl pimp, currently wanted by the British police for questioning, and due to stand trial in Romania if he gets back from the States. As unlikely as it might seem, the first man helped create the second. But how? Let's find out. The story starts nearly 100 years ago in the northern city of Basel, Switzerland, at the Zoological Garden, still the country's oldest zoo and one of the city's most popular attractions. In 1934, Schenkel began a study of wolves at the zoo. They were sourced from different locations and housed together in a small 10 by 20 meter space. Schenkel was there for the most comprehensive wolf study that the field had seen to date. Over the next few years, he would observe how the wolves behaved and mated and interacted with each other. And what he was trying to get at was a wolf sociology. How do they live together and how do they organize themselves? As the study went on, other wolves would be swapped in and Schenkel would pay attention to other species like primates or dogs, which are obviously super close to wolves in lots of ways. Finally, in 1947, Schenkel published his work titled Expression Studies on Wolves, which would establish some fundamental assumptions in the field of lupinology, which might be a term that I just made up. Schenkel's study outlines how wolves interact, what kind of rituals they use for mating or conflict or conflict resolution. But the key thing from the study was the idea that wolf packs are led by two alphas, the lead male and the what Schenkel calls bitch female. He doesn't specifically call them alphas, but he uses the Greek alpha symbol to denote their first place position in the pecking order. According to Schenkel, within each individual sex, status is regulated through competition and violence, explicit or implicit. And through this competition, wolves can rise or fall in the rankings. So if you're the top dog, you got there through dominance and control. And this question of status and how status is managed and regulated runs through the paper. Schenkel's observations laid the groundwork for the next generation of wolf researchers. One of them was American biologist David Mack, who spent his early career studying wolves in the American Midwest and would channel his research into the 1970 book, The Wolf, The Ecology and Behavior of an Endangered Species. The book was a comprehensive look at wolf research to date and broadly accessible to the public, helping to bring some of the complexities of wolf life to the more general imagination. And the book inherited and reiterated Schenkel's assumptions about dominance and hierarchy and the importance of the alpha. There was just one problem. It was bullshit. Artificial environments produce artificial results. When Schenkel was observing the wolves back in Switzerland, he wasn't really seeing a microcosm of how the animals behave generally. He was seeing what it's like if you take a bunch of random wolves and put them in a cage together and just see how they get on. It's the equivalent of grabbing a bunch of randomers from the street, sticking them in a prison experiment to learn some fundamental truths about human nature, which would obviously be a silly idea. Subsequent research in the field would establish that what scientists thought were packs, like a random group of wolves that come together for survival and community, are actually just families. And the alpha male and alpha female of the group didn't get there through a process of gladiatorial combat. They're just mum and dad. Over the next few decades, Mack would realize his mistake, and he would try to correct the public record, publishing new books and writing articles in the 90s and early noughts, and basically doing a kind of apology tour for the rest of his career, haunted by his role in the transmission of wolf disinformation.
All aboard!
For years, he tried to get his publisher to pull the original book from print. But it was too late. The damage was already done. And the trope of the alpha male, the dominant individual who rises to the top through conflict and aggression, had already seeped out into the culture. Now, between the publication of Mack's book and the 90s and noughties, a bunch of things happened. More general social or economic trends make it easy to see why this particular concept of the alpha male was able to gain some amount of cultural cachet. This is the turn towards conservatism in America. This is Reagan and Thatcher and no such thing as a society. The triumph of capitalism, where we're all in a kind of permanent combat for top position. Assumptions about the primacy of the alpha male in the natural world would gain another boost in 1982 with the release of Chimpanzee Politics by Dutch-American primatologist Frans de Waal. The book was super popular. It looked at the alpha-beta divisions in primate society, how humans might adopt some of the chimps' strategies for gaining and maintaining power. Waal's book eventually found its way into business and political culture, and copies of the book left on various congressional nightstands. In the late 90s, the presidential face-off between Al Gore and Bush Jr. presented an opportunity for the alpha-beta division to be mapped more concretely onto political binaries. Hotshot feminist scholar Naomi Wolf was brought onto Gore's presidential campaign as a kind of gender advisor and drew media attention for her behind-the-scenes arguments that Gore needed to stop being such a beta and embrace a more alpha personality if he wanted to win. Just like David met before him, Francis de Waal, the chimpanzee guy, saw what he had helped create and was forced to do damage control. Up until his death last year, de Waal could be found on YouTube trying to, again, correct the public perception, reiterating that in the primate world, leadership roles were maintained through things like relationship building, respect in the community, soft power. It wasn't just putting on a tank top and shouting at a bunch of middle managers in a car park. But again, barn door, horse bolted. The big pivot, as with so much of modern male online culture, comes in 1999 with the publication of Neil Strauss's book, The Game. This mega seller was a kind of first-person gonzo expose in which Strauss infiltrated the quasi-underground world of American pickup artists, buys into the whole thing, gets lost in the sauce, and eventually becomes one of the ringleaders. In the book, Strauss outlines how a ragtag of socially awkward, underdeveloped dudes are taken under the wings of professional seducers and attraction scientists. In particular, Mystery, the swashbuckling pirate king of the pickup world, armed with a playbook of tactics, some pop psychology, and the coercive energy of a salesman who won't take no for an answer. These losers and baddies are unleashed on the clubs and bars of America, determined to get some numbers and get some women home. One detail about Mystery, real name Eric, that explains a lot is that as a kid he was a big Dungeons and Dragons fan, which makes sense here because he trains these guys to treat the social world like a kind of tabletop game where you pick a character, you use tactics, and you're just trying to win. Now, these guys are nerds, so there's a whole dense kind of quasi-technical lexicon here. One concept that is super important for them is the alpha male. These guys feel like they're baddies, they're second class, and they want to be the sort of platonic alpha male that Mystery tells them they can be. Here, the alpha male is just the guy that they always wanted to be. Charming, sociable, attractive, funny, able to keep the attention of women. While this might seem like a benign enough aspiration, like who doesn't want to be more confident, it's clear in the book that the alpha male in their imagination is a kind of symbolic stand-in for everyone that's ever bullied them or mistreated them, all the jocks and hot dudes that they feel sort of resentful of. And this sort of seduction boot camp that they go through isn't so much an attempt at self-improvement as it is a revenge fantasy. They want to not only dethrone the alpha, they want to humiliate him, steal his girl right from under him. Again, it's about hierarchy. The Game is a bit of a cringe read, but it's also kind of entertaining. This book had a real cultural moment. Strauss became a kind of celebrity, and Mystery got his own VH1 reality show. But a few years later, Strauss would disavow the kind of shallowness of the lifestyle that he was helping promote, writing a new book which was all about how to develop real relationships with women. Now, although pickup artist culture has kind of persisted in niche corners of the internet, on the whole, online culture has moved on, and the alpha male has taken on new, more sinister mutations.
I am now the alpha.
In the noughts and 2010s, we get the rise of what's kind of broadly called the manosphere, the male-dominated ecosystem of the internet. Its own fractions, diversions, alliances. In particular, the rise of a content-driven internet and the influencer culture that comes with it has given us the alpha male influencer, a figure who combines and expresses a bunch of the more obnoxious strains of online culture. Entrepreneurship, passive income, Dubai, Lamborghinis, muscles, shouting.
I see your fucking eyes already! Your fucking souls are mine!
All of this coming together in a figure like Tate. And it's hard to know how seriously to take all of this. Mainstream internet culture mostly regards these guys as clowns. They're easy to mock. Thanks to the way that algorithms and feeds work, we usually see them at their most extreme, their most cartoonish. And because this is the internet, there's a lot of performative identity here. A lot of it for sure seems like a kind of grift or scam, a way to fleece the Jordan Peterson ice bath demographic. But there's also a real kind of darkness here. With the misogyny, the contempt for weakness, the insistence on dominance and humiliation, there's a strong kind of fascist streak to this particular iteration. This is especially evident on platforms that cater to younger viewers. Streamers like Twitch, Kick, Rumble, places with strong MAGA energy. The appeal towards the young and the inexperienced makes sense. The modern alpha male is a sort of cartoon figure, a 14-year-old boy's image of what it means to be a real man, a sort of really anti-aesthetic product. But the story of the alpha male continues. A few days ago, the Trump administration pressured the Romanian authorities to lift the travel ban of Andrew and his brother Tristan Tate. Now the two are in Florida. Nearly 100 years after Schenkel's original misdiagnosis, the figure of the alpha male continues to embody and express some of our darkest impulses.